Late at night, you find yourself staring at the ceiling, replaying the day in your mind. You had a clear plan this morning. You knew exactly what you needed to do, but somehow the day slipped away. Once again, the important project you intended to tackle remains untouched. You ask yourself in frustration, I know what to do, so why didn't I do it? This scenario is painfully familiar for so many of us. We set goals, make resolutions, and genuinely want to improve our lives. We know we should start exercising regularly, finish that work assignment, call that client, or pursue that passion project. We often even know how to do it, in theory. Yet when the moment comes to act, we hesitate or divert our attention. Instead of hitting the gym, we sink into the couch. Instead of working on the business idea, we scroll through our phones or tidy the desk for the 10th time. The gap between intention and action can feel like a vast canyon that we just can't seem to cross. It's easy to label ourselves as lazy or lacking willpower when we procrastinate. After all, if you truly want something, shouldn't you just push yourself to do it? But as days or years pass and our plans remain on the shelf, it becomes clear that something deeper is happening. The truth is that knowing what to do is only part of the equation. The real challenge is in translating that knowledge into consistent action. And that challenge is not a simple matter of willpower or character. It's a complex inner battle that almost everyone fights, quietly, every day. Inside each of us, a subtle tug of war is taking place. On one side, there is the part of us that sets goals and knows what is good for us. Call it our rational mind or our ambitions. On the other side, there's something pulling back, whispering, "Not yet. Let's wait a little longer." We often interpret that second voice as mere laziness, but more often it's rooted in emotion. In fact, the very word procrastination comes from Latin meaning to put off until tomorrow, and from Greek meaning to act against one's better judgment. That sense of acting against our own judgment is key. It hints that procrastination isn't just poor time management, it's a sign of an internal conflict. When we procrastinate, we are usually trying to avoid some kind of discomfort. Consider how you might delay checking a difficult email or avoid starting a taxing task. In those moments, it's not time or knowledge that's lacking. It's that the prospect of the task stirs up uncomfortable feelings. It might be worry or fear of failing, or maybe a resentment that you have to do this task at all. Procrastination becomes a strategy, albeit a self-defeating one, to escape those negative emotions. By doing something else, anything else, we get temporary relief. We don't have to face the stress, the fear, the boredom, or whatever feeling we dread. But that relief is fleeting, and often it's replaced by a mounting sense of guilt and stress as the delay backfires. Psychologists have noted that procrastination is rarely about laziness at its core. It's about avoiding pain, even if that avoidance creates more pain in the long run. This is why tasks we've put off tend to loom larger and heavier in our minds over time. We dread them more the longer we wait, and the cycle continues. The knowledge that we should just get it done is there, but emotionally we feel stuck or even paralyzed. To break free from this cycle, we first have to understand what exactly we are avoiding and why. One of the most common emotions behind procrastination is fear. Not the sharp kind of fear you'd feel if you met a bear in the woods, but a quieter, insidious fear that whispers of potential failure or humiliation. Imagine you need to write a report or give a presentation that is important to your career. You know how to proceed, yet each time you sit down to work, you suddenly feel the urge to check email, get a snack, or do literally anything else. If you look deeper, you might find that you're afraid that your work won't be good enough, that you'll be judged, or that you'll let yourself and others down. This fear of failure, or even fear of success and the changes it might bring, can freeze us. Our mind, trying to protect us from the sting of possible failure or criticism, steers us away from the very action that could expose us to those risks. It's an ironic shield. By avoiding the work, we avoid the fear of failing at it, but we also guarantee that we don't succeed. Fear doesn't always shout. Often it masquerades as prudence or perfectionism. Maybe I should do a bit more research before I start, you tell yourself, or I'll wait until I'm really in the right mood to tackle this. These thoughts feel responsible, but they can be fear in disguise. By postponing the start, we delay the moment we have to confront our limits or the uncertainty of the outcome. We might even tell ourselves that we work better under pressure, to soften the guilt of waiting. In the meantime, nothing gets done. Beyond fear, there are other emotional culprits too. Boredom is a big one. Some tasks are just dull or tedious, and part of us rebels against the monotony by seeking something more stimulating. If you have a dry spreadsheet to go through, suddenly the idea of reorganizing your files or watching a quick video becomes very appealing. Then there's resentment and resistance. If we feel that a task is imposed on us unfairly or isn't aligned with what we really want, we drag our feet. For example, a student who has been assigned an essay on a topic they dislike might procrastinate, not because they can't write it, but because on some level they resent the assignment. Procrastination can be a quiet act of defiance, a way of saying, "I don't want to," even when outwardly we've agreed to do it. Self-doubt also plays a significant role. If you're not confident you can do something well, it's tempting to avoid doing it at all. This way, at least you don't have to face evidence of your perceived inadequacy. Someone who labels themselves not a math person, for instance, might continually procrastinate on studying for a math exam. It's a vicious circle. The less you do, the more unprepared you remain, reinforcing the belief that you can't do it. Our beliefs about ourselves, many formed by past experiences or offhand comments from others, can become mental barriers that keep us stuck. It's also important to recognize that our capacity to take action is not constant. It fluctuates with our energy and emotional state. We often underestimate how external stressors drain our motivation. Major life changes like a breakup, illness, moving to a new city, or starting a new job can quietly sap your mental and emotional reserves. If you're going through something heavy, you might find you have little willpower left to tackle even small obligations. There are days when simply getting through the day's basic chores feels like a victory. In such times, procrastination can be your mind's way of saying, "I have enough on my plate already." This is not an excuse so much as a reality of being human. Our willpower is a finite resource, and when it's spread thin, everything becomes harder to start. Indeed, research has shown that willpower behaves a bit like a muscle. It can get exhausted if you overuse it without rest. If you force yourself through back-to-back challenging tasks, eventually that mental muscle starts to quiver. This is why, after a long day of making decisions or doing hard work, we often have no energy left to do more, even if the remaining task is something we genuinely care about. It's not that we don't want to. It's that our self-control fuel tank is empty for the day. The classic example is how someone might hold it together at work, resisting distractions and staying productive, only to come home and procrastinate all evening on personal projects because their willpower was depleted elsewhere. What's more, every unfinished task we carry is like a weight on our minds. Psychologists note that our brains keep track of unresolved tasks, an effect sometimes called the Zeigarnik effect. That nagging feeling that you're forgetting something, or the way you suddenly remember an undone task at 3 a.m. are signs of your brain nudging you. Each promise or plan you haven't acted on hovers in your subconscious, creating a low-level hum of anxiety. So when your list of things I should do grows long, it's not just a scheduling issue. It can become a constant emotional burden, draining joy from your free time because you never truly feel at ease. We end up in a state of being chronically stressed by the things we're avoiding, which ironically makes us want to avoid them even more to seek relief. It's a perfect trap. So, if the struggle to act stems from our emotions and mental habits, how do we overcome it? The first thing to realize is that there is nothing fundamentally wrong with you for feeling this resistance. Many brilliant, capable people fight the same inner battle. The difference between staying stuck and breaking through is often a set of small mindset shifts and strategies that help you work with your mind rather than against it. One powerful approach is to break down whatever you're avoiding into the smallest possible step, and then start with just that. Often the task we know we should do looms so large in our mind that it feels like standing at the base of a mountain, craning our neck to see the summit. It's no wonder we don't know how to begin. We're trying to take in the whole mountain at once. Instead, focus on the very first foothold. If you need to write a 10-page report, commit to writing just one rough paragraph, even a very clumsy, imperfect one, or simply open the document and jot down an outline. If you've been meaning to get fit but the thought of a full workout is too much, tell yourself you'll walk around the block or do just 10 minutes of exercise. By making the first step almost laughably small and giving yourself permission to do it imperfectly, you lower the barrier to entry. And a funny thing happens once you start. Momentum kicks in. You may find that one paragraph turns into a page once you get in the flow, or 10 minutes of exercise becomes 20. But even if it doesn't, you will have made progress, and that reduces the mental burden and builds confidence. Progress, no matter how small, breaks the spell of paralysis. There's a saying you might have heard: how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It captures the same idea. Any big challenge becomes manageable when you divide it into bite-sized pieces. Importantly, celebrate those bites. Give yourself credit for each small win. When you finish that one paragraph or take that short walk, acknowledge it as an accomplishment. This isn't silly or self-indulgent. It's crucial. Our brains thrive on a sense of achievement, however modest. That little hit of pride or relief you feel when completing a step is fuel to take the next step. Step by step, those small wins add up, and before you know it, you've covered far more ground than you thought possible. Another key strategy is to pay attention to the stories you are telling yourself, and to actively rewrite them if they're holding you back. We all carry around narratives about who we are and what we're capable of. Some of these stories were formed years or decades ago, and they can be astonishingly persistent. You might catch yourself thinking, "I've always been bad at this," or "I'm such a procrastinator, I never follow through." But these are not fixed truths. They're beliefs, and beliefs can be changed. Consider the example of someone who was told when they were young that they weren't a math person. Perhaps a teacher or parent offhandedly made a comment, and it stuck. Years later, whenever they encounter something involving math or data, they shy away from it, convinced they'll struggle or fail. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. They avoid practicing math, so they never get better at it, thus reinforcing the idea that they can't do it. Now imagine that same person decides to challenge that narrative. They remind themselves that one comment in childhood doesn't define their ability, and they start to approach math with an open mind, seeking help where needed and practicing regularly. Bit by bit, they improve. One day they realize they actually can handle the math required in their job or studies. In rewriting the story they told themselves, they changed their reality. I know of a young woman who experienced exactly this. She had believed for years that math wasn't her strong suit, largely because of a negative experience in school. Later, during her training to become a doctor, she was faced with challenging quantitative coursework. Instead of shrinking back, she decided to let go of the old, "I'm not good at this" script. She approached the material step by step, sought out resources and support, and discovered that she could not only do it, but do it well. She ended up excelling in an area she once avoided. Stories like this show how often our limits are not set in stone. They're set in our minds. When you replace a defeatist story, say telling yourself, "I can't do this," or "I always mess this up," with a more empowering one, like "I can learn this if I work at it," or "I'm improving step by step," you break the psychological chains that held you back. The task ahead no longer feels like a verdict on your self-worth, but simply a challenge to be met. While you work on changing your story, also practice giving yourself compassion instead of criticism. Many of us fall into the trap of beating ourselves up for procrastinating. We call ourselves lazy or weak in the privacy of our own minds. Ironically, that harsh inner voice only makes things worse. When you feel ashamed or inadequate, it saps your motivation and confidence, which makes you even less likely to start the next time. If a good friend came to you feeling bad about not getting things done, you wouldn't insult them and tell them they're a hopeless case. You would, hopefully, encourage them, forgive them for stumbling, and help them focus on what they can do next. We need to extend the same kindness to ourselves. One setback or a dozen procrastinated days do not define you. They are experiences to learn from. Studies have even shown that people who forgive themselves for procrastination are less likely to procrastinate in the future because they're not weighed down by shame. So if you slip up, take a breath and let it go. Rather than thinking, I blew it, I always sabotage myself, try thinking, I procrastinated today, but I can try again tomorrow. I can still change this. Use supportive language with yourself. It may feel odd at first, but it makes a genuine difference in your resilience. Now, about that initial spike of resistance when you face a task, the moment when your brain screams, I don't want to, just before you start. There's a useful trick here. Count down and move. Some people swear by the 5-second rule. The moment you notice yourself hesitating, count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and physically launch into the task. Stand up, open the notebook, step out the door, whatever the action is, start doing it by the time you get to 1. This works because it interrupts the debate going on in your head. You bypass the part of your mind that's coming up with excuses and just begin. It's like pushing yourself off the starting block before your thoughts can pull you back. Often, taking that one small action, opening the email, putting on your running shoes, dissipates a lot of the dread. You realize, okay, I've started. This is not impossible. Remember, an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. Once you're in motion, it's much easier to keep going. It also helps to remove temptations that make procrastination easy. Our modern world is a minefield of instant gratification. Social media, streaming video, endless information at our fingertips. If you sit down to work but your phone is glowing with notifications, or your favorite website is one click away, you're creating an environment where resistance is futile. To set yourself up for success, try to make your immediate environment as conducive to focus as possible. That might mean silencing your phone and putting it in another room for an hour, or using website blockers on your computer when you need to concentrate. If you tend to procrastinate by tidying your room or doing laundry, the classic productive procrastination, then perhaps start your work in a space that's already fairly neat, so you're not as tempted to jump up and rearrange things. Conversely, make the things you want to do more accessible. For example, if you plan to go running in the morning, lay out your workout clothes and shoes the night before right next to your bed. Simplify the path to good behavior and complicate the path to avoidance. Small tweaks like these can have a surprisingly big impact over time because they reduce the friction of starting the right thing and increase the friction of drifting off into the wrong thing. Even some famous figures resorted to environmental tricks to beat procrastination. The novelist Victor Hugo, facing a tight deadline, reportedly asked his servant to hide all his clothes so he couldn't go out. With nothing else to do, he stayed in and wrote furiously until his work was done. You probably won't need to go to such extremes, but the principle holds. Sometimes we must cleverly limit our options to force our own hand in a positive way. In addition to shaping your environment, consider establishing routines that signal to your brain it's time to work or time to rest. Our brains are very context-dependent. They learn to associate cues with actions. If you begin writing every day at 7 a.m. at the kitchen table, after a couple of weeks, merely sitting at that table at 7 a.m. can put you in the mindset to write. Routines automate action. Early on, you might have to push yourself to follow a routine, but with repetition, it gets easier and eventually becomes nearly second nature. This is the essence of building good habits. The more habitual a behavior becomes, the less we have to rely on willpower to carry it out. You don't generally procrastinate on brushing your teeth at night because it's an ingrained habit. Imagine if you could make working on your goals just as automatic in your day. When planning your day, be realistic and strategic about your to-do list. A common mistake is overloading ourselves with too many tasks or prioritizing the wrong things. If you give yourself a list of 20 things to do and only finish 2, you end up discouraged, ignoring that those 2 might have been plenty of work. It's often better to identify the 1, 2, or 3 most important tasks for the day, the ones that will make the biggest difference, and put them at the top of your list. Then, start with the hardest or most important one if you can. There's an old metaphor attributed to Mark Twain that if you have to eat a live frog, you should do it first thing in the morning, because then the worst is behind you for the rest of the day. The frog represents that tough task you're dreading. Tackling it first not only ensures it actually gets done, it also gives you a boost of accomplishment early in the day. You free yourself from the nagging dread that would hang over you if you postponed it. Many people find that the day feels lighter and more productive when they take this approach. By contrast, if you spend your freshest hours doing easy, low-impact tasks like clearing emails or organizing files, you might be technically busy, but still end the day having made little progress on your true goals. So plan smart. Do first things first. Along with working smart, find ways to make the process more enjoyable. Procrastination feeds off drudgery. If a task feels like pure grind, your mind will rebel. So see if you can inject a bit of interest or reward into it. For instance, play your favorite music while cleaning the house, or turn mundane paperwork into a challenge by timing yourself and trying to beat the clock. Some people find it helpful to gamify their chores, earning points or small rewards for each milestone. Even in serious work, you can usually find an aspect to appreciate, like focusing on the knowledge you're gaining or the satisfaction you'll feel afterward. And don't underestimate the power of social support. Tackling a task alongside someone else can spur you on. If you have a colleague or friend who also has work to do, consider a virtual co-working session or an agreement to check in on each other's progress. We are social creatures, and knowing that someone else is striving with us or that someone will notice if we don't show up can provide that extra boost of motivation. At the end of the day, giving yourself something to look forward to, a break with a cup of coffee after an hour of deep work, or a relaxing show once you finish that report, can create a healthy carrot to balance the stick of discipline. It's not about bribing yourself, but rather encouraging a positive association with getting things done. Equally, remember to pace yourself and work with your natural rhythms. Human energy isn't a constant flat line. It's more like a wave that rises and falls throughout the day. Some of us are morning larks who think clearest at dawn. Others hit their stride in the afternoon or evening. Pay attention to when you feel most alert and creative and when you tend to slump. Then, as much as you're able, schedule demanding tasks during your high-energy periods and lighter or routine tasks during the lows. If you know you always feel a bit brain dead right after lunch, maybe that's when you do a bit of filing, take a walk, or have a short nap if your schedule allows, rather than trying to do complex analysis at that time and getting frustrated. Working with your body's natural tempo can make a huge difference. It's exhausting and demoralizing to constantly push yourself at a low-energy moment, and it often leads to procrastination because you're fighting your own biology. Don't neglect the basics, either. Your body and brain are one system, and taking care of yourself will pay dividends in your ability to take action. Simple things like getting enough sleep and starting your morning in the right way can set you up for success. If you struggle with feeling sluggish in the morning, try a quick reset to your internal clock. As soon as you wake up, expose yourself to sunlight or bright light for a few minutes and do a bit of movement. It could be a short walk, some stretches, or a brief jog. This sends a powerful signal to your body to wake up and energizes you naturally. That first thing in the morning boost can make it easier to dive into your tasks rather than dragging your feet. And at the other end of the day, give yourself a consistent bedtime if you can. A rested mind has more strength to resist procrastination. It's hard to face challenges when you're running on fumes. Think of sleep, exercise, and nutrition as the fuel and maintenance for the engine of your productivity. When your engine is well tuned, every uphill task becomes a little less daunting. We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding the emotional traps that snare us to practical tactics for breaking free. It might feel a bit overwhelming to implement all of this at once, but remember, you don't have to. Overcoming the gap between knowing and doing is a gradual process, a journey of small steps, just like the tasks themselves. You might start by picking just 1 or 2 ideas from here to focus on. Maybe this week you practice breaking your tasks into tiny steps and celebrating those wins. Maybe you decide to turn off distractions during a designated work hour. Perhaps you start reframing a negative story you've been telling yourself, or commit to a regular sleep schedule. Each of these actions, as minor as they might seem, is a brick in the foundation of a new habit, the habit of taking action. As you begin to apply these strategies, something remarkable happens. The acts of procrastination that once felt so insurmountable start losing their power over you. You'll likely find that the tasks you dreaded weren't as painful as your mind made them out to be. The monster in the closet was just a shadow after all. With each project you finish, each challenge you meet head-on, you build self-trust. You prove to yourself that you can rely on you, that you are someone who does what needs doing even when it's hard. That feeling is incredibly empowering. It creates a positive feedback loop. Action builds confidence, and confidence makes action easier. Also, don't be discouraged by setbacks. Even with all the techniques in the world, you will have days when procrastination wins. Maybe you'll fall into old patterns during a particularly stressful week, or you'll catch yourself scrolling aimlessly when you intended to be productive. It's okay. It doesn't erase the progress you've made. What matters is that you catch yourself and course correct. Use it as a learning experience. Ask, why did I avoid this? What feeling was I trying to escape? There's always a clue in the answer that can help you going forward. Then forgive yourself and move on. Every day starts fresh, and you can recommit to your intentions anew. Imagine yourself in the near future, reflecting on what you've accomplished because you found the courage and methods to act on your knowledge. Perhaps you finally launched that business, improved your health, learned that new skill, or simply freed yourself from the constant anxiety of unfinished tasks. Think of the relief and pride you'd feel. That future isn't far off. It's built one day at a time, one small action at a time. The bridge between knowing and doing is built with these small planks of effort, laid consistently. In the end, the secret is that there is no single secret. It's a combination of understanding yourself and developing practices that empower rather than fight against your natural human psychology. It's trading shame for curiosity, trading grandiose plans for humble steps, trading idle dreaming for real-world practice. It's being patient with yourself, but also nudging yourself onward, like a compassionate coach who knows your potential. Yes, you know what to do. You likely have known for a while. Now you're equipping yourself to actually do it. Day by day, step by step, you can close that gap. And as you do, you'll not only achieve the goals that have long sat in your mind, but you'll also transform your self-confidence and your life. The path is waiting, and you are ready to walk down it. The next move is yours.